Well, go-go, I guess originated in D.C., but I got most of my licks off just by listening, just by, you know, listening to the music and grooving off it and just kind of playing. You have to swing all the 16th notes that you're playing to try to keep that feel, because what happens is, you know, the drummer's usually laying down a solid groove, and all the percussionists in go-go kind of like keep that swinging 16th note type of feel, because they're playing a lot on top. They might play a pattern like doom ba, ka-ding ding ba, ding ding ba, ding ding ba, and then you got to just kind of lay it right in there and just like doom ba goo goo ba goo goo and keep it solid. But I don't know, when you're playing by yourself, I like to add all those notes. I like to play a bunch of stuff with my, I like to add all the notes that the percussionists are playing in order to capture that feel. Like maybe with my left hand, I'll play a lot of the percussion parts with a kunga or something on the left, or you know, with some of the toms to kind of get that feel, that swinging feel that makes go-go, you know, so special. In go-go, the swing is more like the pulse is more on the ones, and I mean the downbeat, the quarter notes. So if you have notes, so the swing is more like 1, 2, where like in the older style, like big band, you know, they would emphasize the swing maybe on like the upbeat, so it'd be more like 1, so it's a little heavier feel to me. That's what I like about it. That's why I kind of picked up on it. In this next lesson, we're going to learn about go-go. The first beat you're going to hear is what I consider the most basic go-go groove. In this next beat, I'm adding some 16th notes to the hi-hat and bass drum to exaggerate the swing. Now I'm adding even more notes to the hi-hat and kick drum. By adding some 16th note triplets to the bass drum, you can give the go-go beat a more rock feel.
That's a quality head right there.
Oh yeah. I figured if I had to put a new one on, it'd be like stupid. It's all about the sound. The go-go sound. If it was bought in the store, you don't want it. It's the whole concept about go-go. It's getting that sound. I found most of this stuff to try to get that sound. You think it'd be funnier to whisper everything? Like Buddy Rich and you see Gene Krupa when I was, growing up wanting to learn how to play the drums, I would see them do, I'd see them ripping on a snare drum, doing all this like crazy technique. And, they'd be going from loud to soft, accented notes to non-accented notes and, all this crazy dynamics on the drum, on the snare drum. I asked my teacher, how do you gain this control over the snare? I was just like amazed. He said, you have to practice this up-down technique because what it's doing is, it's going through each one of those strokes he's doing separately and gaining control over that first before you can put the whole thing together. Play all of these strokes at a slow tempo. Stay relaxed, but keep your reflexes quick. The full stroke starts at a 90-degree angle and ends at a 90-degree angle. This stroke is used to play accented notes. The tap stroke starts at a 30-degree angle and ends at a 30-degree angle. This stroke is used to play non-accented notes. The downstroke starts at a 90-degree angle and ends at a 30-degree angle. This stroke enables you to play an accented note and get set up for a non-accented note. The upstroke starts at a 30-degree angle and ends at a 90-degree angle. This stroke enables you to play a non-accented note and get set up for an accented note. now what we're going to do is we're going to do all the strokes together. This is an exercise that is 4 eighth notes in a row, so it's in 4/8, and it's utilizing all the strokes with one hand. And this goes down, tap, up, down, tap, up, down, tap, It's so hard to make that second note of the double stroke roll strong. So, if, you know, because a double stroke roll is basically right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. Most people want to accent the first note, so make that first note louder. They want to go right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left. So when they do double strokes, it's kind of like sloppy and just like, it's really, there's no way to, the only way to build that double stroke roll is to accent the second note, so you're putting emphasis on the second note. Up, up, up. And as you speed up, those are all the upbeats. So I was playing a little funk drumming for you, and I don't know, I like to, you know, when I play funk, I like to get different like tones out of the drums, you know, that's why I'm kind of just out here setting up, just kind of fooling around. And I wanted to show you how to like get different tones out of the snare, because that to me is like the main part of like, you know, the sound, like James Brown and stuff. He'd always have like 3 different snare tones going at once with just like a straight beat. So, you know, the 3 tones I like to use are like the real fat back tone, and that's kind of like playing in the center of the drum without hitting the rim. And that's, you know, and using the butt end of the stick helps a lot as far as like getting that really fat tone. That kind of sounds like this. Then what I like to do is I like to put that with like the 2 other tones, and the 2 other tones that I want to use is the higher pitch tone, which is more of like the James Brown sound, or like Steve Jordan kind of made it like, you know, really popular, and that's hitting 3 inches off the butt end of the stick and hitting the rim. So that sounds like this. And see the difference between, that's kind of more of like a flat AC/DC tone, and this is like the high pitch, like James Brown type of tone. Then you got the 3rd tone I like to use is both of those put together, but hitting in the middle of the drum, and that kind of sounds like this. So it's both of them together, hitting a rim shot and hitting in the center of the drum. So the 3 tones are this. And like, let's say you're playing a 2 and 4 beat, and what I like to do is to really make it like funky is I like to make like the 2 a deep tone and the 4 a high tone. So if you're playing like 1, 2, 3, 4 and going 1, 2, 3, that's like straight. With that same beat, I'll make it sound a little more funky by hitting 2 different tones, and that would sound like this. Like, see the difference? I mean, and then you add like some grace notes under there, or some underlining diddles, which kind of like make it even more sloppy, and maybe adding some more on the kick, you get a really funky beat, and that would kind of sound like this. All those little snare things that I'm doing, utilizing the 3 different tones that I just showed you, and, you know, kind of slopping it up, really makes it funky. I'm going to talk a little bit about the hi-hat and a couple different ways to play the hi-hat. Different situations too. All right. Let me show you some different ways to play the hi-hat. The first one is like with straight 8th notes. I like, it's kind of more of a rounder feel, you know, if like you're going to play like a, kind of like, I don't know, okay, let's see what am I talking about here? I'm talking about the hi-hat. Okay, we're thinking of 3 different ways to play the hi-hat, and the first one I'm going to show you is this shank tip technique, and this is cool to like really get like a feel and a finesse for the hi-hat, because you know the hi-hat's actually a hard instrument to play. It's like the hardest thing to like start it when someone says count off a tune, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, I mean, it doesn't really work. What I'm going to show you right now is a nice finesseful way to like to play that, and that's using the shank tip technique that I call, and that's playing all the downbeats with the shank. So if you're playing eighth notes, it'd be 1 and it'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then playing the upbeats with the tip, and so it gives kind of like a nice finesse on the hi-hat, kind of going like this. And that's cool for like a rounder type of feel. Like if I'll just play a 2 and 4 beat and show you like a groove just playing that. It's really good for breakdowns too, like kind of playing like and then coming back in. Gives a nice round feel to it. That's one way I approach the hi-hat. Another way is like more of like the, you know, the hip hop type of, the street type of sound for like hip hop funk, and that's like they're using more of a stiffer type of hi-hat sound because most of it's programmed. So when I first heard that, actually I was doing a session, and I went in there. This is why I want to show you these 3 different ways of playing the hi-hat, because it's important, I think, to learn all of them and be able to pull them out when you need it. Because I went into this hip-hop session, and there was kind of a Tribe Called Quest type of beat. It was kind of like with 8 notes on the hi-hat, and I was kind of playing it like this. Which is cool for a certain situation, but they wanted the raw, like, you know, hip hop sound, and they kept singing me like, we want it like really stiff. And so I went in there and I played all the shank and played all the 8th notes with the shank and made this kind of like emulated a drum machine type of sound, and they loved it. So it's like that's just playing only the shank. Kind of stiffens it up so they can kind of move around, you know, the hi-hat, because when they're rapping they need to like hear that solidness, and that's their thing, and I didn't really understand that until I like really dissected it and learned it on the hi-hat and learned how to do that. Especially like with the open hi-hats, especially in hip hop, they want that open hi-hat like really loud, you know, and at first they were saying open the hi-hat like do sa, do sa. And I was going like, and they're going, no, we want it like powerful. So it was like you really got to like dig in, and these are the subtleties of the hi-hat that make like a beat funky, you know. So I had to really like, you know, accentuate that 8th note. I had to be like, feels uncomfortable when I'm playing, but like that's the sound they wanted, you know. It's like normally I would just go in there and I play the way I play, but you know that's not going to get you the gig. You got to really like listen and find out what's happening, you know, in the sounds, especially, you know, like James Brown, like Funky Drummer. That beat, he's only using the tip of the stick. He's like, you can tell he's like right on the tip. He's not going or. Those are sort of the 2 I just showed you. He's right on the top and really light and really finesseful, and he's playing like. And when he's opening the hi-hat, he's opening it really lightly and with the tip of the stick. This is kind of a hard one to play, but it's a. You get the idea. I mean, that's sort of what the sound is. It's like those 3 different ways to play the hi-hat are like really important in order to make like a beat funky. I'm going to tell you a little story that I want to tell you a little story that happened to me. I was doing this session with Gary Scheider from Funkadelic and Mudbone from Bootsy's Rubber Band, and we were in the studio, and they asked me to, like play something really, play something funky because we were writing some new tunes. So I thought, okay, yeah, I'm cool. I can play all this cool stuff. So I started. I think the beat was, I think it was like this. I was like. Something like that, and they just looked, they were just staring at me, and I was going like, like, what's wrong, can you guys play something? And they're like, well, they weren't moving to it, they weren't moving their body to it, because they were like, they couldn't understand where I was coming from, because everything I was playing was like up here, it was like in my head. It wasn't like, I didn't feel it. I wasn't like feeling, like the bottom and the bass drum, and then feeling the 2 and 4 and the snare. And they just wanted to hear something simple. They just wanted to hear just do-do-ga, do-do-ga, do-do-ga. So it like left space for them to play. So they can play, like Atomic Dog. Like, so they could play boom don't go don't go boom doom, and they just wanted something straight. They wanted me to just like lay down a beat that they can feel and they can like dance to. So they were just like, just play the simplest beat you could think of. And I just played, And I thought, well, that's not funky. There's not all these little embellishments in it. That's what they wanted to add. They wanted to go like, and they wanted that dun 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 dun, and they wanted, and Gary wanted to add a guitar part that was, well, let me tell you this, like the James Brown tune. We were playing this James Brown tune, and the guitar part was something like dent gank dent gank dent dent gank dent dent gank dent gank dent dent gank dent. I heard that. I thought, okay, I could play to that. I was like. And, I was playing all these diddles and playing everything the guitar was playing, the accents with my bass drum and snare, and clogging this whole thing up. And I was driving down the street one day, and I heard like. The tune, the real James Brown tune, and it was just like amazing what the drummer was playing. It was just like, it just blew me away, because he was just leaving all this space to let like the guitar and the bass and the vocals and everything breathe, and it went something like this. He was going like dent gank dent gank dent dent gank dent dent gank dent and I mean, that just blew me out. I mean, just he was leaving so much space. I actually heard the guitar, I heard the bass, I could hear everything, and he's just playing just quarter notes on the hi-hat and just, not playing the 4 of the whole, on the snare of the whole pattern, and it just, all of a sudden I could feel it. All of a sudden it went from like my head to my hips. All of a sudden it just like, and then I understood what like Gary and Mudbone were saying. They just wanted to feel something that they could play off of, not something that was like, that you have to think about. anyways, the way I learned my four-way coordination and independence in all four of my limbs is by practicing these ostinato patterns. And what I would do is, like, I would take like, let's say like a Samba bass drum pattern, and I would learn that. Samba or a Baiao bass drum pattern, and I would learn that with my feet. After I learned that, I would like add a snare. Maybe I would learn, like, put 2 and 4 to that, the Samba and Baiao pattern. Just a basic 2 and 4 backbeat, and get my feet and left hand working. Or I would add like some other kind of syncopated pattern. There's 13 different ways to break up the 16th note, and I would break that up, I'd write it out, break it up, the 13 different ways, and practice that with my right hand and my rise cymbal. After that, I would practice like doing a solo with it by starting off very slow, starting off maybe just with one ostinato pattern with my right hand, like playing maybe just quarter notes. And with those quarter notes, just building with the quarter notes, or building with like eighth notes with my right hand, then adding different bass drum patterns and different syncopations with my left hand. But that way you learn to like get coordination while learning like really hip grooves at the same time.
embarrass us, did he? Can you remember anything?
Not that I can remember.
No.
He was always a good boy. He behaved very nicely, didn't he, Frankie? Mm-hmm.
Funny. Funny, baby.
questions or anything? Is anything? So I can take a break for a second?
Who are your influences?
When I was, growing up, definitely Tony Williams, Buddy Rich. I mean, Tony is just a true master. I used to sit behind him and watch him play at the Keystone Corner with my dad.
Yeah.
And I would go to Drum World and just look at his drum set. I would just go in every night and just stare at it, the way he set it up.
He had the big yellow,
Yeah, he had the Ronald McDonald kit.
Yeah.
It was yellow and red.
Big cymbals on it.
Yeah, he was into numerology too, so, he did, his snare drum had 12 lugs on it, and the floor toms were 12 inches high, and, he had, everything was like 12.
Really?
Cause, yeah.
Oh.
So I would just study it, because, with my setup, I'm really into architecture, so I like to, this isn't what I normally play, but I like to set everything up, in squares and whatever, so if you look at it at any angle, you'll see
kind of line, linear? Is that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
word? Everything's kind of...
Yeah, when I was doing the cymbal thing, I kind of got that from Tony because it's kind of a meditation thing. I mean, I was playing it loud because I was in an aggressive mood, but the tones that were coming from the, the loud cymbals was, I was hearing a waveform that just continues. And I'm not trying to get deep or anything, but Tony, he taught that, everything he did meant something. And, the only time I think I cried when I was watching a drummer was when I saw Tony Williams, where I was just watching it one day and I just started crying, because I was like, what the hell? I was like, that's why I want to do this, It's because of people like Tony and watching some of these cats, man, I was like, get the hell out of here. I'm influenced also by Dennis Chambers, who I saw with Parliament Funkadelic, and it was like, not only was he grooving, but he was also playing. That's when it all comes together. He was like, that's when it got scary. Because he had both. So.
I've read some articles in some of the drum magazines.
Yeah.
On your last album, Anti-Pop,
Yeah.
Primus, you got to play with Copeland, he got to produce some of your songs and stuff. I was wondering what that was like playing such a,
Yeah, well, yeah, we called up Stuart, and he's one of my heroes, and he came in, we went to LA, and I walked in, and there was the police, the old kit from the police, right next to mine, and Stuart walks in, same vibe, total attitude, total jerk, just walked in, sat behind the kid and said, let's go, and I was sitting right there, and I said, cool, let's play, and we played, and he dug it, and he said, let me produce a tune, now we're friends, and, I hang out with him, I also write for Drum Magazine, so I did an article, I went to his house, interviewed him, yeah, he still has all yeah. It's scary. I wanted to be a classical snare drummer. I took classical snare drumming because I wanted to play in the San Francisco Symphony. So, and all the reading and all that stuff helps so much. Especially in Guns N' Roses, they're like, do that thing where it stalls, that stalling thing. And I'm like, oh, you mean the quarter note triplets? Oh yeah, that thing, it impresses them, they think oh, that guy knows what he's doing. I use a whole different kit. I went in there and I brought my Primus kit in there, and I just looked at it. I was like, nah. So now I'm using a 26-inch bass drum, 13, 16, 18, 20, yeah, just rocking out. When I was going to PIT, I was into Frank Zappa, and I would just listen to, I would listen to Shut Up and Play Your Guitar with Vinnie Colaiuta, and play all those licks, and just play in 1916, and do fills over it, and just do all this crazy stuff. And then, there's something to say about a good song also, which Frank could do, but just to jam and do all that, it's like piecing together an A section, a B section, a bridge, some breaks, and, put a good vocal over it, and you can have a big mansion in Bel Air. I never thought that way until now, so it's changing my whole style. I never would think that way. I would think, oh, I just want to shred. I want little kids to go like, that drummer's shredding. But there's something to say with the subtleties of the rocks, even that band, that I never heard before. So I figured doing it, you know, Primus was way the other direction. I mean, Tim Herb Alexander is a great drummer. He's a friend of mine. And when they asked me to join the band, they wanted something completely different. You know, I play with a bounce, and Herb plays very straight and linear. So it just added a different element. And now I'm just, you know, looking at another chapter with Guns N' Roses. Keep playing the drums, I guess.
Okay, action.
Ryan, you been playing all day?
Okay.
You gotta get serious, stop.
This is the way you're looking at me.
Because you're not acting natural. You gotta act. So this is where we've been recording the drums lately, and in this smaller room we get a smaller drum vibe. It's a little tighter sound, a little more aggressive. And then, you know, we got the bigger room in here where it's like we're gonna be recording, like we get a bigger sound. So it's gonna be pretty good. Oh shoot, I dropped the stick. Hold on, do it again. Okay. I got caught. In this next segment, you know, I wanted to show you like different room sounds and stuff, you know, and all these snare drums that I got and the different tones we've been getting. And so we're going to go in here in a second and check out all the tones and we'll figure it out. So let's check it out. Okay, let's go. Does it look funny with things? I gotta make sure it looks like really dumb. Okay, hey, now we're done with the snares. We're gonna go to the kick drums. You know, we're gonna talk about different kick drum sizes and how they work in the room. And so let's go check that out. I would practice these patterns, like taking different. Can we do it again? The whole thing.
Loosen up. The dinner scene.
Take it out.
Quiet on the set. Action.